Hey everyone, and welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be doing Total Drama Smart versus Dumb because we just did this Finch Camp Smart versus Dumb, so now we're doing this. Okay, well, let's just get right into it, I guess. First of all, spin the wheel, obviously. See who's going to be first to go to the elimination ceremony, and it's going to be Smart. Now, Smart's going to have a lot more action on it than Dumb because there's more villainous Smart characters than there is villainous Dumb. But anyway, let's get into it. So, I think the main thing is that Heather and Alejandro here, they're going to be rivals because even though technically in All Stars they kind of get together, but no, I'm talking like pre-World Tour, before All Stars kind of thing from this. So Heather, Alejandro are rivals and they're gunning for each other. So they kind of set up their own teams to target each other. I think that Alejandro managed to rope in Courtney because she didn't seem too annoyed with Alejandro's game in World Tour, and she still kind of respected him for the game he played. Izzy, just because she's mental, and Alejandro got her in World Tour somewhat on his side, and MK mostly due to the fact that she likes playing sneaky and Alejandro plays sneaky, so she likes that. Sorry. Bowie, I'm gonna say, is also on the side due to similar reasons as NK. He kind of likes the way Alejandro plays, although he wants to be close to Alejandro. So if there's some backstabbing, he's not the one that'll get it. On Heather's side, I think it's going to be Heather. I think she could get Harold. I think Noah, more just due to the fact that of his distaste to Alejandro, he'd rather be on his side with Heather. And Cameron, due to persuasiveness, because Cameron doesn't really know anyone on this team. He's the only Revenge of the Island character on this team. The other two are on Dumb. So he's just going to go with whatever, and I think he goes with Heather. Gwen is in the middle. She doesn't like either of these two, so she doesn't pick either of these two. So she's kind of on her own. I think she's becoming pally with Cameron, convincing possibly later down the line to ditch Heather and just become a duo. But so yeah, for this first elimination, it's actually going to be 5-4 on the side of Alejandro, with Gwen probably voting for Heather anyway, because I think she hates Heather more than she hates Alejandro. So that's 6 votes for Heather and at best 4 for Alejandro. So Heather is the first boot. Okay. Now we go again. Hopefully we'll see Dumb this time. We will see Dumb. Okay. This one, there's again going to be two kind of warring factions like there was on the Smart team, and those are going to be from Justin and Scott, mainly because these are the two villainous characters that you can kind of get from the Dumb. You could count Lightning, but Lightning's just, doing whatever he wants, so I don't know if I'd count him. Again, for this, I feel like it would again be a split team. I think that Justin would be able to get Katie, Owen, Lindsay, and Tyler. Katie, because of his looks. Lindsay, somewhat because of his looks, but he doesn't really have the same thing anymore. And I think he just convinces them because they were on the same team, the cast, whatever. And Tyler goes along with Lindsay, and no one also because attractiveness. On the other side, we've got Scott's group. I think he gets Jeff, Lightning, Ezekiel, and Wayne. I think Wayne and Lightning get along, even though Wayne's a lot more, ethical than Lightning, but they're still both very dumb sports players, so I think they get along. Scott is able to manipulate Ezekiel and Jeff and Lightning and Wayne, and so he's got a fight there. And now I think these guys both again realize that it's a 5-on-5 and they want to target whoever. I think here though, Scott doesn't really think Justin's a big threat at the moment, and I don't think Justin thinks the same. I think they're going to go for different people on their warring sides. I think Scott's going to want to go for Justin's numbers because he feels like Justin probably would win a tiebreaker against most of his team other than Lightning. And so I think Scott decides that he wants to vote for Katie because she's probably the weakest in the challenge, to make sure they have a solid numbers advantage over the other side. Justin, I don't think thinks that far ahead, and maybe I'm giving Scott too much credit there. I don't think Justin thinks that too far ahead. I think he just goes straight for Scott, and because it's 5-for-5, it's a Scott versus Katie tiebreaker, and Katie definitely loses. Okay, 50-50 again. We'll see where we're going. We're going back to dumb straight away. All right. Okay, now with Scott having a lead on them, he could take out Justin now, but I think he decides again to just take out the other people while he can because even now, he doesn't know that Justin's the one controlling the other side. Justin somewhat knows that it's Scott controlling the other group just because of because he like displays his manipulative side to everyone. Justin's a lot more closed with that. So again, I don't think Justin is Scott's number one target, and I think he actually decides to go for Owen just due to the fact again, no one on this team are really good for challenges. I mean, Tyler's really clumsy, Lindsay's very clumsy, but I think he goes for Owen just because he can't really stand Owen. Owen gets on his nerves, so I think he wants to vote for Owen. That's not what he tells to these guys, obviously, because I think Jeff likes Owen. I think Ezekiel doesn't mind Owen, and I think these guys would actually I think Wayne would get along with Owen. But I think Scott gives another reason, and they get convinced by it, and they go with him. Jeff maybe with some extra convincing, similar to what they had to do with him when they voted for Bridget in Ireland. But yes, Owen is voted out. Okay, 17th should be smart this time. Yes, it is. Okay, we've gotten very even so far. Both going 8 left after this one. Right, so now that Heather's been taken out on the other side, the rest of them are all kind of vulnerable. I think Alejandro's next target is 100% Noah, just due to the fact that he knows Noah's onto his manipulative behavior. And so, for that fact, he gets his group to vote for Noah. I think at this point, Noah and MK would have formed a bond of some sort just due to their similarities, but I think it doesn't mean anything because even if that was the case, I feel like Gwen would probably get Alejandro vote, which would then leave the other three a chance to vote for Alejandro, but I don't think they decide to do it. Noah definitely does. I think Harold does. And I don't think Cameron does as a thing. I think he actually goes for like Izzy or something because she scares him. So that means that Alejandro is safe and Noah is voted off just due to Cameron's. you know. All right, we go again. Are we going to go back to smarts? Yes, we are. We're going back to smart. This time, I don't know who the target would be. I think this time around, you'd think Gwen would become the target, but I think at this point, Bowie starts to see that the more and more people they take out, the more and more Alejandro will have a grip on this side. So I think he tries to gather these four, and Harold definitely doesn't like Alejandro, so he's okay with this. I think Gwen and Cameron get along with this as well, and I think these two are now becoming a pretty solid duo. And I think he could even probably convince someone on this side, maybe Izzy, to join with him, but he doesn't even really need that. I think that's what happens. No, yeah, no. I think he gets maybe MK actually because she's also got some common sense, and I think she knows that Alejandro is taking control. So these guys flip, and Alejandro gets voted here. Barely. Now this riles up Courtney a lot, and now Courtney is now targeting MK and Bowie, just so you know. Are we going to go back to smart for the third time? No, we're going back to dumb, keeping things 100% even, which is nice. Okay. Back to dumb. This time, I think at this point, Scott wants to target Justin. Justin's wanting to target Scott. Scott can now manipulate these how they please. But I feel like here, Ezekiel gets convinced by Justin, and Justin actually managed to get Ezekiel on his side, only temporarily, because I think Ezekiel falls for his, Luke's trap almost, and so Ezekiel is now on his side for at least a little bit. And so these four are on these four, and I think this time they decide to vote for Scott, and the other side decide to vote for Justin. So it's a battle of the two leaders of the faction, you could say. here, I think the winner of this challenge would probably be Scott, just due to the fact that Justin would not want to hurt himself more than he already has. Even though in action he kind of got over that, but nah, I don't see it. He's gonna not put his body on the line, and for that reason, Scott's gonna win, exiling out Ezekiel because he flipped and leaving these two kind of on their own as well. Okay, we're on 14th now. Are we still even? Yeah, we are. We're going back to smart, though. For smart here, I think now that Alejandro's been taken out, Courtney's on a rampage. I said that earlier. I think she's going to be very openly targeting Bowie because I think she's correct in thinking that Bowie's the main reason for the flip. For that reason, she's going around telling anyone that will listen that they should vote for Bowie. Well, actually, with the beef with Gwen, maybe she isn't. I think I've kind of forgotten about the beef between the two a little, but I think there'll be obviously bigger threats, and Courtney would have been listening to Alejandro anyway. So actually, yeah, at this point, Courtney will be advocating for Bowie or Gwen. I think she'll be going more to Bowie because she knows she can deal with Gwen later. So she's telling people to go for Bowie. I don't think anyone listens. I think maybe Izzy listens, and that's it. Apart from that, I think they all now realize because Courtney's getting so loud that she needs to go, and so she is then voted out. Maybe with Izzy's support, but probably not, honestly. Okay, now are we going to see a back to back for once? No, we're not. We're keeping it 100% even again. Going back to dumb. Now without Justin. So Scott's smart enough to know that now, without Justin, he can kind of just take out the remaining people on the other side however he pleases. He wants to keep the dumbest till the end just in case because he knows he can probably manipulate them and they won't hold grudges. I think he knows that they need to get rid of the duo Lindsay and Tyler and sees that Lindsay is weaker in challenges, and so even though they're both pretty terrible, he decides he wants to vote for Lindsay. I think again, dumbs get along with each other, but I think they go along with this. Scott gives some reasoning and Lindsay is voted out. Making Tyler very upset, by the way, just to keep that in mind. Okay, 50-50. Will we be back to... No, yeah, we will be back to dumb. Dumb going back to back. Here now, with dumb, I feel like Tyler is really upset, but he's not really a threat by anyone's standings. So Scott is just kind of ignoring Tyler. And so I think he decides to actually go for... I think he decides to keep Ezekiel because he was on his side, and I think Ezekiel's been begging to go back on the side, and I think he's more useful than Tyler as a pawn for Scott, and so Tyler gets voted out. Barely. Alright, one more before the merge. Will we get finally a different split? Yes, we will. We will get a different split. Obviously, don't need to do this, but just in case, we're now going to be going 4 to 6 from going into the merge. So here, these four, I think that Scott deduces that he wants to keep the unlikable people on his side. And Jeff and Wayne, obviously, I think have been getting really close at this point because they're very similar in personalities. So Wayne is actually getting along with pretty much everyone, and I think that Scott sees this as a big threat, as well as the fact that I think he's just a likable person, and will probably have the most connections because I think Bowie and Wayne are fine, MK and Wayne are fine, and Jeff really only has Gwen, and even then, it doesn't seem like that relationship was all except for just one episode. So Scott decides that it's best to turn on Wayne here. I think at this point Lightning's also realizing things are getting fishy, but he's kind of like shrugging it off because he doesn't really care and he's just trying to play sports, I guess. And I think coming into merge, Lightning will probably go off on his own, but right now I think even though he's stupid, I think he knows that he doesn't want to get voted. So if he just lets Scott do whatever he wants, he'll be fine. And that's true. Wayne gets voted out, and we have made it to the merge. with Bowie, Harold, Gwen, Cameron, MK, Izzy, Ezekiel, Lightning, Scott, and Jeff. And yeah, only girls from the smart team made it, which isn't great, but you know. Right, so this I gotta quickly go and make 1 to 10. If it's gonna work. 1 to 10, and then I'm gonna do my first one is gonna be for an idol, because you know it says down here idol found. This is for the idol. I'm gonna switch. I'm gonna mix it up a little, and we get number 8. Who is number 8? Number 8 is Izzy. Oh, that's. I don't think she'll be able to use this idol correctly, honestly. This might be a wasted idol. Alright, now this is for immunity. Oh. 8 again. Not Izzy this time, though. It's Jeff. Okay, so let's get back into alliances here. I think Bowie is still now has kind of got this group together because Bowie is a very human villain. Like you can see the connections to Emma in the first season. So I think him and Gwen would actually get along somewhat. Same with him and Cameron. Same with him and MK, maybe not as much. Izzy, though, I think she kind of goes off on her own here. She's completely crazy, and I think she'll be a swing vote for most of the season. I think Lightning is on this side, and I think Harold is somewhat on this side too, because obviously he likes having protection. He's smart enough to know that he needs to have protection, so anyone that take it in are good. So yeah, it's 4 on 5, and I think here Izzy with the idol, Jeff obviously being safe, literally decides just to play the idol on someone random. She doesn't even use it on herself. I don't know why. She just said, you know what? Well, she does. She decides it would be funny, and she decides to play the idol on someone I'm not going to tell you just now. She decides to play the idol, and obviously in the votes, I believe that these 5 obviously know that these 4 are now an alliance, even though they could probably break it up if they want to. They know Scott is the number 1 villain on that side with the most, chance of ruining their alliance. And so they all 5 vote for Scott. These 4 decide that they think that they think that Bowie is the hardest target left in the game, and so they vote for him. So if Izzy played the idol on Scott, Bowie's eliminated, and the structure of this team is kind of ruined. I think these 3 somewhat stay together. Harold just is kind of annoying third. MK might be doing on her own and might join this side. And yes, the idol is Scott, so Bowie is eliminated. And he thanks Izzy, but Izzy doesn't quite understand. She just, I don't know what she'd say, but yeah. Actually, no, Scott probably wouldn't even thank Izzy. What am I saying? Skip that around. 2. 2 is Gwen. Okay, Gwen is immune. I would say with these 3 here, that's very good for them. Izzy MK decides to work with this side just due to the fact that now they're in numbers, and Izzy is again doing whatever. Here, I think she tells Scott that Gwen was thinking about targeting him next, and Scott doesn't like to hear this, so he decides that they should target Gwen. These people don't really care. Jeff, maybe a little, but they all go for Gwen. And because numbers advantage, and I don't think Izzy would be voting with them on whoever they decide to vote, Gwen is eliminated, leaving Harold and Cameron together. And I think they actually get along somewhat because of their knowledge of facts and that. But, so these guys, those 2 are kind of a nerd duo at this point. All right, that is going to be 7th. I didn't shuffle, but it doesn't matter. Oh, wait, no. Yeah, 7. 7 is Jeff again. And for this one, I feel that now that Gwen has been taken out, and I think MK felt somewhat threatened by Gwen, Scott doesn't really see the point in getting out these two because they're both scrawny, and now there's only two of them. He knows he can take shots at his own. I think his number one opponent here is Lightning. He knows that Lightning is really, really self-centered and doesn't really want to listen to a team. And Lightning has started to disband himself from this alliance anyways, kind of just going off and doing his own thing and just like occasionally voting for who Scott wants. Scott decides that he needs to get rid of Lightning because the worse this gets, the less control he'll have on his team. So he gets these four to all vote for Lightning. MK is obviously very happy about this because this is going exactly how she wanted, picking Scott as a bigger target, keeping her in the background, and getting rid of big targets such as Lightning. All right. 7, who is getting immunity, is going to be number... I kind of saw that, but I'm shuffling it anyway, so I don't really know who gets it. All right. Number 3. That's what I thought it was, but I couldn't be sure. Number 3 gets immunity, and that was Scott. So Scott is now safe, which kind of ruins MK's plans, because MK was planning to flip here, but no can do. This time, I think Scott thinks he again doesn't need to target these, and decides he needs to target someone else with a little less, a bit more likability. And that then leads him to Jeff. He realizes that Jeff is very liked by most of the people in the dumb team, as well as a couple of the people in the smart team, leading for Jeff to be Scott's number one target. I think that Ezekiel is fine to go along with this because obviously he's happy just to be taken, and MK thinks this is probably going to be Scott's last round. And so Jeff is got 3 votes for there, and Izzy's going to vote randomly, meaning that Harold and Cameron's votes, again, doesn't have any impact on what happens. So Jeff is eliminated. Right, we've got another idol in play for this one, just to mix things up again. Idol will be going to whatever number I go for here, and just going to shuffle things around. Okay, going to number 3. Is that Harold? Yes, it is Harold. Harold gets the idol, meaning that they can actually make a flip here. Alright, at this point, I think Scott then decides that it's kind of time to get rid of Izzy. She's just doing absolutely nothing, and he thinks she's just weird, and he wants to get rid of her. I think MK is so close to flipping at this point, but I think she decides she wants to hold it off. Because, again, Izzy is a threat. 100% is a threat. So, these 3, again, vote for Izzy. Izzy whacks her vote, probably onto like Harold or something, and Cameron and Harold probably just vote for Scott. But that does still mean that Izzy is eliminated. Okay, this 5. Alright, we go into the thing. I forgot to give immunity there, but it's fine. I don't think Izzy would have won it. 1 for immunity is Cameron, meaning Cameron is now immune. At this point, I think MK knows it's time to flip on Scott. There's no other big targets in the game apart from Scott, so I think she realizes that she now needs to get rid of him. So I think she goes over to them, says, oh yeah, we need to get rid of Scott. They both agree. They've been trying to vote for Scott for ages. So they say, yeah, okay. And Scott gets blindsided after trying to target probably Cameron. Alright, this is the last time the Harold's idol can be used. At this point, I think that MK tells them they should just vote for Ezekiel, but I think she plans on backstabbing them. She tells Ezekiel that they're going to be targeting him and that he should go and vote for Cameron with her. I think that's what she does, but Harold realizes that they're voting for Cameron, and obviously he actually gets to play the idol after the votes. So he finds out that Cameron and Ezekiel are now on a tiebreaker, so he decides to play the idol for Cameron to ensure that Ezekiel is the one voted off. And so that's what happens. Ezekiel is voted out in 4th. So we're left with Cameron, Harold, and MK. So here, I think it's most likely that Cameron is then voted off 3rd, just due to the fact I feel like Harold has a bit more common sense about the whole game than Cameron does. Even though he won, I don't think he 100% knew what was going on all the time, and MK would be definitely able to manipulate him if they were doing some sort of challenge, as it's shown he's very gullible. So for that fact, I think Cameron is getting 3rd. Now, obviously, because there's alternate endings in Total Drama, it doesn't matter who wins. But personally, even though I'm a big fan of Harold, I'm going to say that MK wins and Harold comes second, just due to the journey MK went on using Scott and several others as a shield to make it all the way to the end. Anyway, thanks so much for watching, and I will now list out the boot order. First is MK, second is Harold, third is Cameron, fourth is Ezekiel, fifth is Scott, sixth is Izzy, seventh is Jeff, eighth is Lightning, ninth is Gwen, 10th is Bowie. Out of merge, we go 11th is Wayne, 12th is Tyler, 13th is Lindsay, 14th is Courtney, 15th is Justin, 16th is Alejandro, 17th is Noah, 18th is Owen, 19th is Katie, and 20th is Heather, from losing straight off the bat to Alejandro. Anyway, thank you all so much for watching. So far, so good on the frequent uploads. I've kind of ran out of some ideas. So if you've gotten this far, number one, subscribe if you haven't already. That would really help me out a lot. Number two, comment some video ideas down. Can be Total Drama and Adventure Camp, because I realize I can just do both. I don't have to focus on one at a time. So yeah, see you all